mind. Tell your mother, tell your father, now is the time to decide. If you want leaders who can restore hope, place your ex by the rising sun. If you want leaders who lead with love, place your ex by the rising sun. On election day, vote UNC. One love, one team, one hope, one dream. On election day, vote UNC. One love, one team, one hope, one dream. When UNC wins, everybody wins. When UNC wins, Trinbago wins, Trinbago. Everybody wins, everybody wins. Vote for peace, vote for love, vote for hope, vote for change. When UNC wins, everybody wins. When UNC wins, Trinbago wins, Trinbago. Everybody wins, everybody wins.
Let me invite all of us to stay standing as we get ready to say the national anthem and a word of prayer. Forge from the land of liberty, in the fires of hope and prayer, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Almighty God, most beneficial and merciful, Creator of the universe and embodiment of divine wisdom and light, we come before you with thanksgiving and praise. May your will be done in our nation as it is in the heavens. Please bless our political leader, party officials, activists, and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Give us the grace to always see good, be good, and do good, and the courage to serve the people. Protect us as we stand against injustice and iniquity, and inspire our endeavors to find the right solutions to the problems that are affecting our fellow citizens. Grant that we may always work together with humility and respect for the greater happiness of all and the honor and glory of our country.
I invite you to take your seats. Couva South, good evening. Come on, we can do better than that. Good evening. Let me welcome you to this Workers' Agenda and the Labour Town Hall meeting right here at this Town Hall in one of the birthplaces of the Labour movement. My name is Clyde Elder, and tonight I wear two hats. I am proudly the UNC's Library constituency candidate and I am also a former trade union leader, having exited my leadership in 2023. And I say that to let you know that I'm well placed and well positioned to moderate these proceedings here this afternoon. The Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and the leader of this great party, and on the stage joining us this evening, three distinguished gentlemen who I will get to later on this afternoon. I also want to recognize the President of the Transport Industrial Workers Union, as well as the General Secretary, Comrade Roberts and Comrade Sean. I also see in our presence the President and the Secretary General of the Trinidad and Tobago Postal Workers Union, Comrade Shalon Trim and Comrade Forbes. I also want to recognize in our presence here this evening former Vice President of the Public Services Association and current President of the National Contract Workers and General Employees Association, Comrade Joe Field. And of course, it will be remiss of me to not also recognize, as part of that labor bunch, someone who is hosting us this evening, and I make no other person than Comrade Rudy Indar Singh, current MP for Couva South. And comrade, I do not ask your forgiveness for putting you with my labor comrades, because you are a comrade, yes? I also want to recognize in our presence Senator Wade Mack, and I see the esteemed Dr. Gopi Singh, former Minister of Education, with us. Welcome. Of course, I also want to recognize the General Secretary of our great party, Mr. Peter Kanhai, and all of the other executive members of the United National Congress. And I want to thank His Excellency, the Mayor of the Superior Borough Corporation, Mr. Dudnat Meru, for joining us this afternoon. And of course, all of the executive members of the Couva South constituency of the UNC, welcome and thank you for being here. This meeting will not be possible, of course, without the presence of all of us. So to all of you, I say welcome. You know, if there's one thing that we must set straight, is a burning question people have been asking over and over again. Why has the labor movement seen it fit and necessary to join with the United National Congress in a coalition of interests? Now, if somebody is trying to kill you, then by all means, you have to ensure that you survive. And if in surviving, there is a party, there is an entity that shows that they are aligned with you, they are aligned with your interests, they are aligned with your values, they are aligned with your thinking, they are aligned with your progress, then by all means, you have to align with that party. And under the leadership of the esteemed Kamala Prasad Bisesa, a discussion has been taking place for well over 2 years between members of the trade union movement and the leadership of this great party. And that discussion, no fly-by-night pop-up side, that discussion has taken us to a place where today we have a strong coalition taking us forward into government after April 29th. And today, I am pleased, no, I am honored and proud to say and to wear this UNC shirt here tonight. So for all the naysayers wondering why is Labour with the UNC. We are with the UNC because when UNC wins, everybody wins. Tonight, I'm joined on this esteemed stage by three gentlemen who to me are no strangers. To you, they will also be no strangers. But in case you're wondering, who are these gentlemen? On my very immediate right, Comrade Ansel Roger. Comrade Roger has been the President General of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union since 2008. He is known as a fearless fighter for the working class. And Comrade Roger was recently nominated unopposed for a historic record 7th term, receiving the full endorsement of the OWQ membership. And going 2 seats down, Comrade Leroy Baptiste, former president of the Public Services Association, immediate past president. And he's now an industrial relations professional and holds a master's degree in HRM, Human Resource Management, and a postgraduate diploma in Human Resource Management, both from the University of the West Indies. And on that comrade immediate right, Comrade Michael Anisette of the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union, and he served that union for well over 2, maybe 3 decades. He's also a labor consultant for the SWWTU. He remains the head of NATUC, and he also served as an independent senator in the 9th Republic Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago from 2007 to 2010. And of course, the rose among the thorns on the stage, the Honorable Kamla Persad Bissessa, our next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and the second female Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. So now that you know who is joining me, I will now want to invite each of them to make some brief presentations to you. I want to stress brief, because as a former trade unionist, we like to talk. We just over-talk sometimes. So I want to stress brief. And when you marry a trade unionist, becoming a politician who loves to talk too, you can imagine the kind of trouble you might be in if I do not manage this thing properly. Yes? And if there's one thing that we always pride ourselves in the trade union movement, is that of discipline. So I want to urge my 3 esteemed comrades, when you come to this microphone, to remember to be disciplined. Yes? In the event you are not, and in keeping with good and proper IR, this is your first warning, that I will instruct the mic man to cut off your mic after 10 minutes. And you will have no redress to seek any form of appeal from that decision. So having said that, my good friends, my brothers and sisters, let me first invite to the microphone, and they will sit where they are, my comrade and my friend, Comrade Ansel George Roger.
Is the mic on? Let me make good and efficient use of my time. And in that regard, let me give honor where honor is due and recognize the most important person in the country today, for now and in the future, our dear political leader and the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Chairman, you said it a while ago, but I think that from my perspective, I want to make it abundantly clear to Trinidad and Tobago, because I understand that we are being carried live. We have made no secret, absolutely no secret about all of those meetings we were having with the UNC. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, the person who would have led the team, the UNC team in these discussions, was the honorable leader, the political leader herself, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bhushan. And therefore it is important for Trinidad and Tobago, all the workers, to know that when they come with their foolish talk about we just making up things, all of those things, we went very granular. We dealt with all of those issues relative to all of the trade unions and workers in this country. I want to start by saying, you know, as a worker, you really take things for granted. And therefore, the only time you know the use, the benefit, or the necessity for a trade union is when you get in trouble with your employer. And sometimes we take it for granted that the laws that we don't pay attention to, that those laws would support us. Lo and behold, to workers' dismay, when you have a matter, when you are dismissed, when your employer does you something wrong and you seek redress, then you get to find out that the odds are against you. And it is in that background we would have been addressing a number of changes to the Industrial Relations Act. Changes to the law that governs the conditions of work at the various workplaces. And therefore, I want to, at this point, make this is the first and last point I'm going to make here tonight, that for 10 years, 10 long years, 10 years of 52 weeks each, 10 years of 12 months each, this PNM government, with Stuart Young, that Gary Sobers man, did absolutely nothing to support workers in this country. And so when workers were taking a beating, when trade unions were taking a beating, he was the man right next to Rowley, advising Rowley how to put licks on workers and trade unions in this country. So don't come now with no fancy hodgepodge, just put together promises to try to fool people. You stood idly by when over 60,000 jobs were lost in this country. And he said absolutely nothing. Not one piece of legislation to treat with workers' issue were brought to the parliament. And you know what? They had all of our submissions and discussions that we had. We made all of the suggestions. We identified what is called low-hanging fruits that you can easily, and it costs them no money, you know, that they can easily make amendments so that workers can enjoy a better day, they can be more safe at work and so on. That did not happen. So I want to share with you, and we will take up in the question and answers a bit later on, some of the critical issues that we were tackling in those discussions that found its way into the workers' agenda. And so the commitment to amend legislation in the shortest possible time for trade union successorship at key state enterprises. You know, they do a hatchet job, and that is called, they call it a name, restructuring, or they call it reorganizing and right-sizing. And that is primarily to do what? To get rid of trade unions and what? And to get rid of collective agreements. And to employ people on contract doing the same work for quarter of the pay that you enjoyed before. And therefore, to get rid of trade unions, to prevent that, we tackle the issue of trade union successorship, to put laws in place to have trade unions. If you open up an ex-company, whether you're state or government, tomorrow morning, the trade unions still have successorship and we can still represent workers there. Yeah. And if you find me talking while you're clapping, it's because I want to rush my time. Eh? Yeah. All right. And so, to simplify the process of recognition, many workers in this country want to join a trade union. The Constitution of the country, the laws of Trinidad and Tobago allow you for freedom of association. The Industrial Relations Act allows you to join a trade union of your choice. But you know, the process to become a member of a trade union, for a trade union to get recognized majority status, is an onerous one. And therefore, we want to simplify that process to allow for workers across the country to be represented by trade unions. And you know, this leader, the next Prime Minister, former Prime Minister who workers enjoy the best under her leadership, she is not afraid. She's not afraid or fearful of trade union representation. The only people who are afraid of that is people like Stuart Young and Keith Rowley, who are up to no good. And you would imagine him coming from an industrial relations background, industrial relations lawyer. He would have supported that. But no, his is another agenda. And so we want to simplify that process. The other thing that we want to do is to deal with the Act 32 of 1985. That's the Retrenchment and Severance Benefit Act. And so thousands and thousands of workers, you saw it over the last 10 years, they were retrenched. And the majority of those workers today are without terminal benefits. And therefore, they have to go home because that law does not prioritize workers in the pecking order in terms of settling issues and paying them terminal benefits. And so companies shut down today, open up tomorrow under another name. Yeah? And the workers still have not gotten their benefit. And so we want to address that law to put workers high up on the priority because it's workers who create the wealth for those companies. And so that's Act 32 of 1985. Another one is the Workmen's Compensation Act. So many workers today are injured on the job. No compensation. And so those employers, they have fly-by-night insurance companies who fight down those. I'm sure that everybody in here, or many persons in here are familiar with this, fight down those workers to receive what? Workmen compensation, compensation upon death, fatality while at work. Many workers are experiencing difficulty to receive a proper compensation. So we want to revise that to ensure that workers, if an accident or injury or fatality, that they and their dependents can get a proper and proper compensation. Just look at what is happening to the divers as a prime example. And perhaps we'll talk about that a bit later on. And so the USH Act. The USH Act is another one for us to really pay attention to. These USH inspectors, to start with, they are what? Contract workers. They are afraid to call a spade when they come to investigate a complaint about unsafe conditions, or to put the employers in place to make the employer instruct the employers. We want to give more authority to those USH inspectors to make sure that they perform the duty to make the workplaces safe for workers to perform. That is one of the major amendments to that particular act. And so, there are many other pieces of legislation in the IRA. The IRA, the Act 23 of 1972, many bits and pieces of amendments. The last one being 1994. We want to we have made many recommendations to properly overhaul that act, modernize it, to take care of workers while at work in this 2025 and going forward. We have had no cooperation with the PNM from that. The cooperation we're going to get to make sure that that become a reality, it is from who again? The UNC government with the Prime Minister, Mrs. Kamla Prasad, Bisesa. And let me just touch on outstanding wage and salary negotiation. There are over some 75 outstanding wage and salary negotiations to be settled as we speak. And so workers continue to be living on what? 2011, 207 wages in this country right now, while these people fill their pockets, take 47 to what? From 27 to 40%, 47% increase. That 47, and mankind full it pocket. They fill every orifice in their body with money, walk out and leave you empty-handed. We're going to fix that in the coalition of interest.
Thank you, Comrade Roger. Your time is up, Comrade Roger. Thank you, Comrade. And I'm sure there's many more you could say. We'll be here whole night. But it will come up in the questions and answers segment. I'm sure you'll get a chance to say what you're getting there to say just now. I want to recognize, as we were beginning the proceedings, the arrival of the President General of the National Union of Government and Federal Workers, Comrade Christopher Street. And of course, when Comrade Roger was speaking, and we heard about retrenchment, I'm going to call 4 companies. Government Human Resource Services Limited, TDC, Caroni Green, and Petrotrin. All of those companies were closed down, and all of the workers were sent home in those companies under this PNM government. I want to now introduce our next speaker, another comrade and friend of mine, Comrade Michael Anisette.
Good night, comrades. Good night, brothers and sisters. I'm not hearing you all. I want some energy. Good night. God, man. Let me feel like all you win already now, man. Good night. Where is that? Good night. Right. Power. Power, man. Power. Comrades, brothers and sisters, my task is going to be a short one because I want to raise several issues within the 10 minutes. I don't want my mic to be cut, which I think is arbitrary, but we will deal with that in the industrial court, and I will deal with that statement. I will want to say tonight, brothers and sisters, that work is a social right. It's an obligation, not a commodity. Work as a social right means every person has the right to work under fair conditions, meaning employment should provide dignity, security, and fair wages. We have been involved in a struggle in the port over the last 10 years with this government who is now claiming to love workers, whereby we signed a collective agreement under the government, and when the PNM come into power, they say that the CPO didn't agree and therefore dock workers cannot get their wage increases. Would you believe that? And then therefore, the question of the institution of justice becomes paramount in what we are discussing. Because I could recall when the UNC came into power, under the leadership and under Wade Mark and other members in Dar es Salaam, we were able to settle outstanding negotiations, thereby giving workers the power to purchase. And you see, brothers, I want to talk about economics in a simple way. Our economy has been riddled with one concept, the oil and gas. And every time you talk about diversification, demand has get back. Diversification, what? We have lived to see that what we have been talking about diversifying the economy is what is necessary. And do you know, comrades, the records are there, and I have it, that in terms of the Caribbean region, because labor and capital is symbiotic in their relationship, because without labor, where you're going to get capital, and without capital, where you're going to get labor. But more importantly, you, the ordinary citizens, are the purchasers of goods and services. And therefore, when you take away and degrade workers' salary, you are in effect interfering with your economy. Let me repeat it, you know. This idea of not paying government employees salaries for 10 years is a wicked, malicious act that is rooted in a form of dictatorship, in a form of insensitivity, and a playbook that demonstrates you do not care about the ordinary citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who keeps this economy going. And therefore, my brothers and sisters, the question is, in the 10 years, we saw the relationship with big business, capital, finances. They get all the contracts, but no salary increases for workers. And I ask the question, when the Salary Review Commission had offered the percentum increases, the same analysis that the trade union did, and the same proposal that we submitted in order to ensure that the purchasing powers of workers 10 years ago will be the same in 2025. This government rejected our proposal, but the very government accepted the increase for themselves. Understand what I'm telling all you know. This has nothing to do with politics now, you know. This has to do with the truth. And the reality and truth cannot change. It cannot change. And the Prime Minister defended accepting the increase, while we, the ordinary citizen, while we, the disadvantaged, have been forced from day to day to make a determination whether to go to school, give my children the money to go to school, or take the same passage for I to go to work. That is a reality in Trinidad and Tobago that we cannot deny. And therefore, I am saying, we are saying that the time has come for that to change. If you all want to live in an abusive relationship for 10 years and still go back, you get your bossa, your thing, you ain't get no food, well then I don't know what's wrong with all you. You're delusional. And therefore, I am hoping that we are not delusional, and we will see this thing not from that playbook that I have seen, the question of the race card that is being paid. Because somebody called me Banizet, and he said, how you going to talk in an Indian thing and a UNC thing? I say, I have Indian workers in my union. I have Spanish workers too now. I have African workers. And my right is to talk on behalf of the working class where creed and race has no place. It has no place. And therefore I am saying today, do not get tied up with the buggy of race. Ask yourself, are you better off now after 10 years in power? Are you better off? Are you better off? Are you better off? Well then I rest my case. I don't have to plead nothing again. That is a reality. And let me tell you, the dock workers who work out there, they have been toiling. And you know what is the most amazing thing? In this country, The government owns the Port of Point Lisas and the Port of Spain. And because we stand up for our rights in the Port of Spain, they make a decision not to pay us our 12% and implement the international best practices that will make the Port of Spain more competitive and more productive. And as I speak to you, the issue of the port paying the 12% is not an issue because the port generates sufficient revenue to pay the 12%. But this wicked, vicious, insensitive Prime Minister and government takes a decision. I don't care about that. I say 002, 002. Take it or leave it, do what you want. And then come back and tell me, well, I'll go offer you 5% in the next 3 years. Like if dock workers stupid. 5% over 9 years is 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, 1% for 9 years. And 1% on your dollar is 1 cent. That is the value that this government in power is treating you. The value of your labor is 1% a year, 1 cent on your dollar. We have to understand that is crippling the economy. That is causing crime. That is causing the kind of disorder that we are seeing. And I want to end by making a point now. I have witnessed the dismantling of the industrial court. And I hope under the new government, we're going to address that matter. When politicians start to interfere with the institutions of your country, you know we sliding down a dictatorship, right? And then we know that democracy is up in the air. And why do I say that?
Your time is up, Comrade Annie said.
I have to stop?
Yes, Comrade Annie
Oh
said.
God, comrades beg for me now. All their protests. Tell them 2 more minutes. Tell them 2 more minutes or could finish. Come on. I are trade unionists. Don't cut him at 2 more minutes.
It only have one Jesse on this train. This train have one Jesse. One Jesse.
Well then.
Yes, your time is up. Thank you, Comrade Annie said.
Comrade.
Give him a round of applause, please. And you know, while Comrade Anisette was speaking, and he was speaking about the negotiation that was settled and was not implemented, it's not new to the port, by the way. It's a modus operandi of this government. They did the same thing with NIB, settled and then say they are paying. They did the same thing with TSTT, settled and then say we are paying and then say we'll pay for 5 years. And when you really look at it, those are really settlements of practical completion. Just like the practical completion of the hospital, just like the practical completion of the airport in Tobago, those were settlements of practical completion. It ain't finished yet. Next to speak, and you realize this train have one Jesse. Another comrade and friend of mine, very, very dynamic. Sometimes it does pain me to have to discipline good workers there, but you have to do it sometimes. Yes? And Comrade Baptiste, you will not escape the wrath should you too require disciplining. So to give you his 10-minute presentation, Comrade Leroy Baptiste.
Comrades, one and all. All right, I see the timer, 10 minutes. We're going to make it. First, let me acknowledge the honorable, the honorable political leader and the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Kabla Prasad Visesa. I want to also acknowledge my fellow panelists And, well, boy, it have real dignitaries here. Comrades, Rudy, Tim, Streak, Wade, all protocols observed, comrades, all protocols observed. Yes? I'm at 10 minutes, let me see if I could skip around. Comrades, why did we decide to support the UNC? That was easy. That was real easy. Anybody who have been here for the last 10 years, that's supposed to be the easiest decision you can make. Comrades, I have witnessed, as no as you have witnessed, the widening of the gap between the haves and the have-nots in this country. This country is being run for the 1%. That must come to an end. Comrades, we have had the complete decimation of a middle class. That must come to an end. Comrades, we have had out of control crime and criminality plaguing this nation. That must come to an end. Comrades, we have a situation where, as called the Peter Pan generation, where 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds are to still be by under their parents' roof. You know Peter Pan, that little boy that flies and can't grow up? Well, that's what's happening in this generation because of the policies of the last 10 years. That you're 30 years, 40 years, because of temporary jobs and contract jobs, you could never afford a mortgage to move out of your parents' house. Comrades, that must come to an end. Right following the Peter Pan generation, I was calling it the double palm generation. Because if you don't have a home and you turn a big man and you want to do adulting, double palm rivaling KFC. Every community has one. Catering for the homelessness that we have in this country because of the policies of the last 10 years, where young people can have a permanent job to call their own, a good paying job to call their own, decimating all the good paying jobs. Don't you know that? Where your children that you're fighting to educate will get a good paying job. They lick up BWE, they lick up Petrotrin, they lick up TNTech, they look at the lick up TSTT, all the good paying jobs disappearing right before our eyes, comrades. Comrades, guess what? Why am I here? Because that must come to an end. Comrades, yeah, man. I watched the Constitution of this country. You know what it says? It says, whereas the people of Trinidad and Tobago respect the principle of social justice and therefore believe that the operation of the economic system should result in the material resources of the community being so distributed so as to subserve the common good, that there should be adequate means of livelihood for all. Comrade, for all. Not one, for all. Comrade, the last 10 years, that happening? Well, let me tell you something. That must come to an end. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Comrades are looking at my time. Hear me, comrades. Hear me, comrades. One of the worst things that happened in this country is how they treat workers, boy. Imagine you reach a stage where you have to sit down and wait for years to commence negotiation whilst your salary getting mashed up by inflation. Food inflation is 64.2% as of 2024. You know what that means, comrade? It means in 2013, if you're spending $1,000 in the supermarket, to get the same amount of goods and services now, you have to spend $1,642. Comrade, that must come to an end. We have, comrades, that gasoline, this wicked government, raised gasoline super unleaded by 121%. And super unleaded and diesel by 161%. Hear me, comrades, if all you know what that means. If you are spending $100 for some super unleaded, the same quantity, you have to pay $221 for the same quantity. If it's a diesel, and you were spending $100 in a diesel vehicle for the same quantity, you have to spend $261. Comrade, that's wrong. That must come to an end. So, comrade, what's the answer? The answer is a simple one. It's a simple one. There's only one person. One person who heard our cry. One person who know they was choking us and we couldn't breathe. Comrade, we need to breathe. You know, like George Floyd, when that police put his knee on his neck and he was saying, I can't breathe. Hear what? We in this country can breathe under the PNM. But guess what? There is an answer. The answer, comrade, is Miss Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the United National Congress. Comrades, their track record speaks for itself. Oh my God, just remember now, it was United National Congress that gave us the Children Life Fund, that get zero-rated food and drugs, that created border, first-class affordable homes, that regularized squatters, that give us dollar for dollar. Only remember that? So we can educate our children, that settled over 135 negotiations in 5 years. That raised pension twice. Here what we face. We have a situation where a government earlier only want to give us what? 4%. But my God, what did they give for themselves? 47%. Comrades, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And you see them armchair economists that suddenly want to talk about we business because somebody say they're going to start with 10%. If they couldn't talk to the 1%, if they couldn't talk to the cabinet, keep your damn advice and go from here. And to be clear, comrades, you want to know why we're here? Because it's here that say they're going to repeal the TTRA Act. Give me a round of applause, come on. Give the UNC a round of applause. It is the UNC that say, hey, for WASA, they go throw that cabinet subcommittee report in the drain. That is why we voted for them. It is the UNC that says living wage for all, that they will restart the Petroleum refinery. Comrades, that they go start negotiation and end all negotiation on behalf of the working class. Comrades, put your hands together for Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the United National Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. And I know your 10 minutes of speech must come to an end. But you were very, very, very powerful, comrade. Thank you very much. And as I look up, I could see people as far as my eyes could see. The crowd is so big, we have gone into the other car park now. Give yourselves a round of applause for this huge crowd here tonight. And I want to acknowledge, as he walked in, the former chairman of this great party, Mr. Jack Warner. The other speaker needs no introduction, but she is, and she will be, the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamala Persad Bisasa.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you all very much. I think our candidate here, our chairman, is going to stick me with time too. The timer is on. He's doing a great job. Give him a round of applause. The winning candidate for La Brea for the UNC. My honorable colleagues on the platform, and because my time is limited, UNC friends and family, good night. All protocols observed. I want to make a special mention, however, of our brother, comrade who has just joined us. Please welcome him. We were working before with Mr. Lambert from Nuge. Thank you so much. And we are all together a powerful force. There is no doubt about it. Nothing is going to stop us now. Nothing will stop us now. I said thank you. Good evening. A warrior, a fighter, a man amongst men. Give it up for Ansel Roger, President General of the EU. Comrade Leroy Batiste, fighter as well, a warrior for people and workers. And Mr. Anisette will never give up the struggle. I'm hearing a rumor. They told me don't go off script tonight. So I want you to investigate whether it is true that this government has sold the port. Let's find out. I am asking for a friend. I'm asking for many friends. Has the government been engaged in negotiations to sell the port of Trinidad and Tobago? Let's find out. Let's find out. So, tonight, to all of you here, I say we have always listened to your voice. Your voices have helped to shape our policies to suit the needs of the working people of Trinidad and Tobago and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The UNC has always been a party which recognizes the need to unite the working man and woman and fight for your rights to justice, equality, and prosperity. Our fundamental principle in our party is to answer to you, the people. I told you the last time I spoke, you are our bosses. And for those who forget that the people are their bosses, what we say, vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out. So we answer to you, the people, to serve your interests over and above any elite few in our country. Today I say, the UNC and our coalition partners, we represent the 99% of Trinidad and Tobago. The 99%. The contributions here tonight focus on the workers' agenda, labor policies, which, as others have told you, we've been holding this over 2 years. I want to thank all those from my team and from the labor team who contributed to these discussions. I say thank you to Wade Mark, thank you to Rudin Dar Singh, thank you to Jalen John, and the others who were part of the UNC team when we have been meeting, as I said, for over 2 years. If I didn't call your name, no disrespect, but I want to thank the UNC team and I want to thank the labor team. We've engaged in serious discussions. And if you listen tonight, Some of those areas we found common ground have been enunciated legislatively by Mr. Roger with respect to negotiations, and other areas by Mr. Beatty. So, look, we have a tremendous workers' agenda. We have created a manifesto which I've asked to be distributed. Do you all have it? Workers' agenda. We've crystallized those 2 years of discussions. Leroy, I know it's hard, but those 2 years crystallized, summarized here in point form, that anyone who wants to read can read this. It is very simple, and I've given you a copy. My staff and others activists, you have a copy. Do you have a copy? Great, make sure and read it. Because when the others come to pelt scorn on us, and they come to all the bacchanal, we are about plans and policies. And we've been rolling out our plans and policies at every single meeting. So take it with you and please read it. I'm saying this workers' agenda forms a very crucial part of our manifesto. We will make the lives of working citizens better when you put us into government on the 28th of April. The PNM are pushing a narrative against workers in this country. They're pushing a narrative against our policies, which are aimed, these are intended to make your life better, to make your life easier, to make your life more affordable for all of the citizens of our land. They're pushing against that. They're pushing, and I'm coming up here, not going off script, but I'm hearing on the radio the one-day Prime Minister. One day, you know. He was sworn in today, and on the next day, dissolved the Parliament and called election. Remember that? And for that one day as Prime Minister, he's going to get $1 million pension per year for the rest of his life. The rest of his life. We must vote them out. We have to move them out. We must move them out. And I'm thinking, I'm coming to con, the news is on, and this one-day Prime Minister promising land, house, mortgage, promising everything under God's great heaven, everything under the sun. But you know what? PNM promises never materialize. PNM promises never materialize. Don't forget it. Don't forget it. Don't forget it. Don't get chained up. And despite the PNM narrative against workers, despite their excuse, they had no revenue. Let me tell you, they spent over $350 billion. Billion. I don't even know what that even looks like, but let's imagine. $350 billion. You know what is that? Over $500 billion they have spent. More than any other government in our history has ever spent. $500 billion. Where did that money go? Stop and ask yourself, where did that money go? Because you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't taste it. Nowhere. Where did $500 billion go? Look, as I say, don't get chained up, fellas and ladies. Don't get chained up by these people with their lies and their promises. When they come to your door and ask for your vote, ask them, where's the $500 billion? Where's the $3 billion the Auditor General told us? Where is it? Where is it? Ask them. So if they could spend that kind of money, the money is clearly there. Because in the past 10 years, as I say, $500 billion spent. The government has money for everything else, except what? To pay workers. Everything else. But they can't find money for people. They pay money for workers, but they could find money. I gave you a list last time I spoke of all the money spent. They spent about, as I say, $500 billion. Now they're complaining about $7 billion to pay workers. And you know what? I'm asking you to make that make sense. The PNM maths, not Matson. 2 cabinet ministers of the PNM, Young and Rawi, they have recused themselves over 210 times from the cabinet. Why? Because their friends and family had to benefit from what was taking and discussing in the cabinet. 210 times. That is nearly a year, boy. They only have cabinet once a week. So that's more than a year of cabinet meetings. Jack, 52 weeks. 4 years, them fellas move out of the cabinet, they come out of the cabinet. Because it had something to do with their friends and family. That's what's going on. You think they have time for you to too busy recusing themselves to give their friends and family contracts. And they cannot deny it. 210. Our activists filed freedom of information applications, and the cabinet told us, between the both of them, 210 times. 4 years Tim did the maths for me. 4 years. 4 years, my friends. And Stuart Young, as I say, is the biggest culprit of them all. Minister Imbert cannot account for the 3 billion. Farris and his family has received almost 300 million in rent from the government. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? And all you're in riot yet? Imbert laughing at you and laughing at you, sitting down in some big chair somewhere, grinning and skinning. And they ain't riot yet. Well, on April 28th, riot with your voting finger. Riot with your voting finger. Riot with your voting finger. And so they have spent over $1 billion in legal fees for their Eat Food lawyers. Over $4 billion in financing contracts to Stuart Young's brother's company. Did you all know that? Well, they say what they do in dark will come to light. Can't hide it. Because when we get into our cabinet, we'll expose all that they've been up to, sitting in that cabinet and pretending to run the country. They've given billions of dollars to husbands and wives of cabinet ministers. But guess what? No money to pay workers. No money. You see, our philosophy in the UNC is that our policies, we believe, every time we were in government, everything that we do, we believe that our greatest resource in TNT is our human resource, our greatest resource. Several of the speakers here mentioned it. No country can be developed without tangible and equitable and strategic investment in its human resource, in its people. No country can develop without that investment into the people of a country. One of you said it, I think it might have been Ms. Batiste, about with all the people, there's no labor. Without labor, there is no investment, there is no development. So you come first, and the UNC, we always say we put people at the center of our development, at the center. So after several meetings, intense dialogue with the executive and the leadership of these various unions, and I tell you, them union fellas ain't easier. At the table, they're putting their proposals, and listen, I ain't easy too. I had a pushback. So at the end of it, we came up with proposals that we all agree with. And that's how it should be. Consensus, consultations as we move forward. So we had several meetings with the Joint Trade Union Movement, JTUM, OWTU, Oilfield Workers Trade Union, the PSA, Public Services Association, Seaman and Waterfront Workers Trade Union, NATUC, National Trade Union Center, and the National Union of Government and Federal Workers, NUGFW. All these discussions. And we have a fellow, Wayne Mark, he's a trade unionist too. So he was in those meetings. We are embarrassing another trade unionist. So them fellas feel as them alone could be trade unionists. The UNC also has its own trade unionists. And so we met, and we created the UNC's Workers' Agenda, which aims to restore prosperity to the working class of our land. This government has spent, I told you, $530 billion, $500 billion. You know what? They're complaining about a new UNC government saying we are going to pay the workers. They're vexed about that, you know. And I'm glad Mr. Batiste and the others said, listen, take whatever they promise, whatever they do, but let us vote them out. Vote them out. And if paying workers is wrong, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right. Their new Minister of Finance, man, don't take me on, you know. Don't try to fight me because I'll fight back. I'm telling you, I will fight you back. I've been a fighter for people for so many years. This new Minister of Finance, Vishnu Danpal, is on record in the newspaper yesterday condemning the UNC because we want to pay workers back pay and better wages. This is the same Vishnu Danpal that was the main advisor as a permanent secretary to whom? Imbut. For years, for the last 9 years. He was also the High Commissioner to United Kingdom. And what happened? They imposed visa restrictions on Trinidad and Tobago. Remember that? Danpal's public statement confirms to all workers that the PNM has no intention to pay any back pay or to increase any salaries if they go back into office. That is Danpal. Danpal, remember the name. Go and look for it, Google it, and see what he said, reported in the paper yesterday, that they don't have the money. Man, if you don't have the money, get the hell out of there. And we will find the money to pay the workers. Get the hell out of there. Move. Move. Move and let me pass. Move and let me pass. Go. You have to go. Danpal's statement, as I say, confirms they have no intention to settle workers' wages, back pay, and any increases between back pay from back, as you say, years ago. Things we settled for the port workers when we were in office up to today, 10 years later, man, they have not honored it. You think they will honor anything for workers in this country? No. Take note, the PNM Minister of Finance is saying nothing for workers over the next 5 years. On the 28th, vote them all out. Vote them out. We are saying there was money and there still is money to pay workers a fair salary and their back pay. It is the PNM who has deliberately chosen to not pay workers, and instead they spend their money, guess where? I think Mr. Roger went a little off color. Where they put their money, they fatten their pockets, and he said everywhere else. Fattening their own pockets, but they don't want to pay workers. And so, my friends, workers and their families must hold the PNM responsible for crime. Workers and their families must hold the PNM responsible for the high cost of living. Workers and your families must hold the PNM responsible for wiping off over 60,000 small businesses off the register. Off the register. Workers and their families must hold the PNM responsible for over 60,000 jobs lost. You must hold the PNM responsible, and Stuart Young himself, for the 4% insult to the workers of this country. Workers and families must hold the PNM responsible for cutting benefits to your children. Remember that. Any government that would go to to take milk out of the mouth of your babies do not even deserve to be listened to. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out. Workers and families must hold them responsible for property tax, electricity and water rate increases, fuel price increases. Workers and families must hold the P&M responsible for cutting the benefits to children, the laptops, remember those? Textbooks, gate, school feeding. But the worst of all, which I just said, is the baby grant. I brought that into effect when we were in government. I read in the newspapers a mother who went into a supermarket. I do not agree and condone people should steal, but the mother was so driven in paying when to take baby milk off a shelf. And I said that should never be happening in a country like Trinidad and Tobago. And I created that baby grant only for these people to come and lick it down. You have seen Stuart Young in the parliament talk about Kamala and the baby grant. Well, I am going to bring back that baby grant. I will bring it back. I will bring it back. I am a mother and a grandmother. And all mothers and grandmothers know, as do fathers, grandfathers, all of us as human beings, the one thing is for the survival of our children. That is how the human race continues to survive. If we do not take care of your young, who will take care of the young? Whom? We will, the UNC will, together with our coalition partners, we will. And now here we are. The famous, what Trump go do we answer? What Trump go do we? Well, you find out now. You find out now. We have been warning the government. I don't gloat about that failure of the dragon gas, because anything that could help us to help our revenue streams is important and we support. But the UNC government will renegotiate with all our trading partners in the best interest of Trinidad and Tobago. The PNM put all their eggs in Maduro's basket. We warned them about their dealings with Maduro. But I tell you, the UNC is not short-sighted. We have an economic plan. We have UNC has a master plan. We have 12 key strategic prosperity engines focusing on key development areas to help our country in the economic diversification trust. You spoke about it. That was a bad word to Rowley and his gang. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. Look what has happened now. When that basket fall long, all gone. According to somebody who was a prime minister, he said, cuckoo, cook. Cuckoo, cook. He said that when this dragon gas collapsed, okay? So we have our plan. We have an economic transformation plan. We have the 12 key strategic pillars, and these are: 1, a Breccia Castle agro-processing complex; 2, St. Madeleine manufacturing facility; 3, an East-West biotechnology manufacturing corridor; 4, Sevilla Digital Innovation Park; 5, Tamana Solar Tech Renewable Energy; 6, West Port of Spain Trinidad Creative Arts Street Area; 7, East Port of Spain Steel Pan Manufacturing Facility. We should be selling steel pan to the rest of the world. We should be important for other countries. We should be selling that. That is the only acoustic instrument ever invented in the last century, the steel pan. And we have just given up on it. When I said it in the parliament, I remember sleepy man Hines get them and say, come now, what nonsense. And we already have a steel pan manufacturer. You know about any steel pan being manufactured here? There's a small facility. And this man in 10 years still believes we have a proper manufacturing facility for steel pan. So let's make it happen. East Port of Spain, steel pan manufacturing facility. 8, Piarco Aircraft Maintenance, Repair and Operations Hub. Everyone should come here and then go elsewhere in the Caribbean. Used to happen, but we are fast losing that. Again, because of this wicked PNM government. 9, Cedros Special Economic Zone. 10, Point Galeota Energy Logistics Hub. 11, Plymouth International Cruise Ship Marina Complex. 12, Tobago's first locally branded hotel in Tobago. So these are just some of the plans, and I just want to close that is something I know is very close to your hearts, especially here in Central and as in other parts of the land. In 2010, when I was elected as your Prime Minister, one of the first things that I did in the cabinet, I authorized the withdrawal of the appeal against the decision of then Justice Dialsing, which permitted former colony workers to access residential land and agricultural plots. That was one of the first things we did when we were in government in 2010 and thereafter. Because the PNM Justice Dialsing said, yes, you have to give the colony workers residential and agricultural plots. That was the promise. And Dialsing ruled, and guess what? The PNM appealed. All the way they went. But I caused the withdrawal of that appeal by the government. I caused that appeal to be withdrawn. And because of that, we were able to distribute over 5,000 leases for 2-acre agricultural plots. We executed over 3,097 residential lots of deeds. 8,855 former colony workers were beneficiaries of lands under my government. In 2015, my government promised, we promised, and we keep our promises, huh? We keep our promises. We promised former colony private cane farmers a payment of $140 million as their final payment to transition out of the industry. We got monies from the EU to help the transitioning of the private cane farmers. And so, well, what happened? What happened? What happened? When we did that, we had to pay that money. We promised in 3 tranches. My government made the first payment of $30 million before the PNM came into office in 2015. We did it in 2015, the first tranche. When they came into office, guess what? Rowley said not one red or black cent for them, none. None, and they stopped the tranches. They stopped the, not a cent more for the cane farmers. Since 2017, I have led a team of lawyers that have fought in the Magistrates Court, in the High Court, and the Court of Appeal to ensure that this money was paid to the former cane farmers. I want to thank and congratulate Attorney at Law Gerald Ramdeen, who has been at the forefront of fighting these matters in the courts. The PNM government, after we took them to court, Gerald and others, offered the cane farmers 53 cents on the dollar. Money that was theirs, offered after we went to court, 53 cents. You talk about 1 cent, Mr. Andy said, 53 cents on the dollar of monies that were sourced in 2015 to pay these private cane farmers. Tonight I commit the UNC will pay the cane farmers the entire outstanding sum of $110 million due to them. I say we keep our promises. That was a promise in 2015 before the PNM took office. But God does not sleep. God only wears pajamas from time to time. And today, And on April 28, God is giving us a chance to keep that promise to the farmers. As I close, I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to remind you all, especially wicked Vishnu Dan Paul and Stuart Young, that it is the working people, those who the labor movement represent, who are and will remain the economic and social foundation of our modern-day democracy. You know it. The UNC was built from this powerful history, founded on labor's principles of equality, fairness, justice for the ordinary man and woman, on whose blood, sweat, and tears our nation was built and sustained from the labor movement. I say to you tonight, never fear, Kamala is here. May God bless you. May God bless you. I thank you very much.
Everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Thank you to the Honorable Leader for that wonderful contribution. And as the next Prime Minister was speaking, I couldn't help but recall that right in this area, there was a company called ArcelorMittal. And that company was shut down. And that company was represented by the immediate past Attorney General Reginald Armour, who would have advised that company against the workers. And today, up to now, not one worker from ArcelorMittal has received $1 for the service that they gave to that company. And up to now, not one worker from ArcelorMittal could say that they are assured of receiving a pension when they retire. But under a UNC government, that will be fixed. And I'm saying that will be fixed because workers must not ever have to suffer that kind of injustice again. Never. And Madam Political Leader, I really hope that the promise of election observers is not another practical completion. Because he promised it, I really hope that is not another practical completion we're going to get. Because let me tell you something, my brothers and sisters. When a man is desperate, he does desperate things. And we cannot afford anything. We can't leave anything to chance in this election. And we demand those election observers on the 28th of April and even before that. And yet another practical completion. Comrade Roger, when they promised land for petrolhead workers, they promised land for petrolhead workers. And that too is another practical completion. Realize those practical completions. They're only promising and we're doing it. And nothing happening. Nothing is happening. So you have heard from us on this wonderful, esteemed August panel here tonight. And it is time for now for us to hear from you. So those of us who have questions, I want to invite you to the microphone, and I see my comrade and brother there is already set to ask his question. Yes, I just want to ask you to be brief as you come to the microphone, to be very brief because we do have a number of questions. And keep in mind that we are indeed on live TV and we need to finish by a certain time, and we'll try to answer all the questions as best as possible. So,
good night, everyone. And I just want to say good night to our mother of the nation and my past president, Leroy Baptiste. I don't want to ask questions. I want to tell you how powerful the union is. Without a union, there is nothing. Now, with a union, I was in the union for the past 15 years, PSA. And without a union, you are nothing. I was a chairman of the Presbyterian School section. And without the union, we had nothing going. When the union come in, we had things going up. My president here, he could vouch for that. All right? So be careful. And union is very important. I can tell you that for the past 15 years. I don't want to go long. I will go very short. People, the first thing when you get the 5%, they say, oh God, your sellout was 5% and 500 house, and I get one too. I get a place to live. A poor man like me from the UNC. From the UNC. We get somewhere to live. The poor people in order to go and pay 20 and 40 and 60 and I didn't pay nothing. Under the past president, I get a place to live. I get 14%.
Come on, can I ask you to just speed up your
Still waiting on the back
contribution,
pay,
please?
and I'm almost done. I'm going now. I'm going to finish this. One thing I want to tell all of you here before I leave. One thing. Everybody want to know why I just say the mother of the nation. The wicked PNM government, the only first thing they took away was children breakfast. I work in a school for 30 years. I can tell community school in the morning. How there's a what? There's a cry for things. So I am saying, the first thing the wicked PNM going, they rob the little children in all the schools. And our mother of the nation who talk about it, and that's how they get back. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody who's coming to the microphone to please be quick.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. My name is Dolarjan Chatagon, 85 Esperanza Village, California. And Mr. Prime Minister, when you make Mr. Rudy Indar Singh the President of Trinidad and Tobago, when we form the government next month, right? That's the first thing you have to do. The next thing, you have to put Ms. Ansel Roger to lead the labor movement in Trinidad and Tobago, right? And the third thing is, you have to make sure that all carony workers, especially the daily paid workers, we ain't get we land yet, girl. Sorry. We ain't get we land yet. 25 years now. Carony workers ain't get we land yet. What we gonna do, boy?
That was already promised by the incoming Prime Minister. Thank you for your contribution, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contribution, sir.
Hi, good night, Prime Minister. Former Prime Minister to come, Mrs. Kamala Prasad, and other comrades. My name is Arjun Singh. I'm a former Caroni 1975 worker for 43 years. Our dear Prime Minister just mentioned about the land distributed for Caroni staff and daily paid workers. But since you stopped, there is very little movement on the land distribution for the 2 acres plot and the 1 acre plot for Caroni workers, both staff and daily paid. So we want you to continue that. Secondly, the Association of Senior Staff in Caroni Limited had a matter in the industrial court regarding the bungalows which it was supposed to sell to us as part of a visa package. For this past 10 years, we have been going in and out the industrial court, running around by the PNM government, and they are not dealing with our matter over the years. 40 householders have died since then. without no compensation, nothing at all. And still the matter has not been solved. You all take up that matter very humbly for all the staff and daily paid workers of currently 1975 limit. I thank you. And when UNC win, everybody win.
Thank you,
when
sir.
UNC win,
Thank you,
currently
sir.
workers win. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I want to urge persons coming to the microphone to please be short in your contributions, ask a question or make a quick comment, and let's move on.
Good night, comrades.
Good night, comrade.
I want to acknowledge Kamala Prasad Basesa, our next Prime Minister. UNC Executive, Trade Union Movement, Natu, Jitam, and brothers and sisters. My name is Sean Roberts from the Transport Industrial Workers Union. I am the President General. I want to bring something to you all here tonight. Workers asking me right now why TU is part of the collision of interests and why we gone political. I let them know, here what's going on. I say, for the past 10 years, you all have been living on 2014 salary. Right? I say, here what? 10 years going to pass. Right? We haven't received not a cent, no back pay, no wages. What to do? I ask them what to do. What to do? I say, come on, I say, what's going on? If you're in a relationship, abusive relationship for 10 years, you're getting licks. You have options. You could stay, you could go by your mother, ask for advice. Your mother give you advice, you go by your father, your brother, your sister, your friend. And it's up to you to take the advice. Because at the end of the day, you could go back or you could leave. Yeah? We have to vote on the PNM at the end of the day. MTS.
Come on, can I excuse you, speed up a contribution, please? Speed up a contribution, please, comrade.
MTS had working individuals have been working on 2014 salary. And that have to stop. And Basasa gave us her word that when she become the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, she will fix that.
Thank you very much, comrade. Thank you very much, comrade.
Honorable Leader of the United National Congress, to the heads of the trade union movement, I am David Forbes, the General Secretary of the Postal Workers Union. I bring greetings from all postal workers across Trinidad and Tobago. Comrades, over the past 2 years, the Joint Trade Union Movement, which the Leadership Council comprised in having discussions with the Honorable Prime Minister in waiting and other members of the executive of the UNC would have had very good discussions over 2 years in regards to the workers' agenda. And having endorsed this workers' agenda, I want to say today that I am certain that workers across Trinidad and Tobago who are paying attention to what is happening will take the necessary action on the 20th of April 2025 and vote for the United National Congress and the coalition. But before I leave, I just want to also thank my dear brother and friend, Rudy Indar Singh, who has been a pillar of strength for the United National Congress in regards to labor. And he would have supported the Postal Workers Union in our struggles over many years. Also, our brother and friend, Comrade Wade Mark. I just have one question for the panel. The question is, what are your views on the tenure of the industrial court judges? Because we know that is a very serious issue, and I think one of the comrades would have spoken to that early on.
what it is really going to happen to our industrial court. And we believe that with a turnover on the 29th of April 2025, we are going to see a rebranding of the industrial court in the way it's supposed to be rebranded. I thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Forbes.
Pleasant good evening to our future Prime Minister, members of the panel, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I know it is written, my name is Christian Siriju, ex-Petrotrin worker. I know it is written in this manifesto that the refinery will be restarted. But over the 5,000 ex-employees of Petrotrin has two burning questions which we would like addressed. One is the pension plan. The last government promised, and as we heard earlier, promises never materialized. They promised to inject funds into the pension plan. That's one. And what is there in place regarding our medical plan? Thank you very much. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Before, thank you. Before we move on, you are a former Petrotrin worker, so I want you asking about the medical plans, which we did discuss. But there's another important issue. I spoke about the lands for the Carney workers, and the UNC will also look into the matter of the promise to give Petrotrin former workers land. But I think it's very important for us to make that commitment here tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, a pleasant good night to you all. As a youth of this fine country, I would like to recognize our next Prime Minister, Ms. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, on August 28, 2025. My name is Safia Asia Mohammed. Now, I don't have a labor question per se, but mine is based in the medical industry. Now, most of us are not on CDAP. What are we going to do about the CDAP prospectus, right? Excuse me. So majority of us on CDAP, some of the things on CDAP are being cut. Let me say for the diabetics, most medications are being cut. I'm a diabetic myself, and not all of us are able to spend money every single week behind medications. It does be very costly, and I am speaking from experience. With a family of 5 individuals, my both parents had heart surgery, and it does be quite challenging to find money to buy certain medication that are on CDAP and is cut because of the P&M government. So I think I speak for everyone when I say vote them out on August 20th, 2025.
Thank you.
Hi, good night, everyone. My name is Andrew Musio. Good night, Ms. Bissessar. Good night, everybody. So, as a young person, I have a very serious question, right? So, like, I've been kind of disturbed at what our Prime Minister, Stuart Young, have been doing. And my question is there any new law you could form, or can you, adjust the law to prevent anyone from doing what Stuart Young have done? Because how can someone basically...
Sorry, son, what do you mean what Stuart Young has done? He's done so many things.
True.
Which one? Which one?
Yeah, well, my question is, how can someone basically be Prime Minister for a day? He wasn't appointed by the people democratically. He was basically hand-selected by his own party, right? So, how... Yeah. So... Yeah, it's a very serious question. So, how can... Correct, that is the question, right? How can someone basically be Prime Minister for one day and collect $87,000 in pension? It don't really make much sense, so that's my question.
Good question, good question. The maths, the P&M maths, not Matson, that's all I can tell you. But I think you must be outraged, as we all are, and make sure on the 28th to vote him out. Vote him out.
I want to say a blessed good night to our dear audience, including our second term in office as Prime Minister come the 28th, Sister Kamala Bisesa. And I seen so much stalwarts here, Brother Wayne Mark, Brother Munilal somewhere around, and we can go on and on. I'm Mackenzie. I come from the community of Pointe-a-Pierre. I am representing Pointe-a-Pierre because we have no representative for the past 10 years in Pointe-a-Pierre. We have an opposition in Pointe-a-Pierre, and I'm short. What I'm saying here to us tonight and the rest of the country, not what our country could do for us, but what we can do for our country. And what we can do for our country is to let the world know, because we are not white supremacy, we are Indian supremacy to get what we need. So we join arms in arms, hearts to heart, because Claxton Bay is the only community do not have a community center. Claxton Bay is the only place do not have a school. To our children in St. Margaret's, Claxton Bay is going to school in Marabella. And Imbot and his boys is still talking about COVID. Every morning, these children, 8 years old to 11, have to jump in a bus to go to Marabella. Ms. Bisesa and the organization team, including the UNC, when we get, not if we get in government, but when we get in government, I'm looking forward for a school for Claxton Bay and a community center. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, let me just remind you before you begin to speak, we stand on the protocols. Let's save time and let's get to the questions or the comments urgently, please. Thank you.
Pleasant good night to all leaders, next future Prime Minister. What I have here to bring tonight is, in terms of the pensioners, all the labourers, labour parties on the whole, all who work in labour, what is the future for the pensioners? Because it's 12 years now we're waiting on negotiations for raise our pay on the whole. So we just want to know what is the future that holds for the pensioners and what it is could give. Because it's too long now we're going through the struggle.
Thank you.
A pleasant good night to our honorable leader, Ms. Kamala Bisesa. My name is Jamal Gera. I am 19 years. And also,
vote.
I want to
You
know.
could now, you're 19, you could vote.
Thank you very much. Also, I want to say, our youths in schools all around the country, I was all over with you, seeing the kids need laptop, children in hospital are dying, also the crime, also seeing Dr. Keith Rowley is not doing nothing for Trinidad and Tobago, and also that I want to make sure that we come out here 2025 and make sure we vote for the UNC party very, very much.
Thank you. And you say yellow is the code. Okay, so let me thank all those who would have asked those questions, made those contributions, and I just want to give 2 minutes to each of the panelists to respond, and just to remind you what were the questions in case you want to respond to any specific one. The views on the tenure of the industrial court judges, CEDAP perspectives on medications being cut, and how do people survive in terms of the cut in medication for CEDAP. What can we do about somebody being Prime Minister for one day but enjoying pension for the rest of his life? And the future for pension and pensioners in Trinidad and Tobago. So, Comrade Roger, you first.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me deal with the first one. We have to restore confidence in the industrial court, where all stakeholders believe when they go to the court, they get justice. And the process as it obtains now for the appointment of judges, that has to be reviewed. You have a situation where the chairman of the ESD is selected and appointed by the cabinet, and carries out the dictate of the cabinet. That is not fair. And he used that position to impose an unfair 4% over 6 years with no consolidation of COLA, and threaten the workers that if you don't take that, you will impose a 10-year agreement. We want to review the process by which we appoint judges. The other thing is to ensure that security of tenure for those judges. Those judges must not be on a contract and have to sing for their supper and therefore produce judgments that we don't have any confidence in. And therefore we want to make sure that there's security of tenure for the judges. Indeed, a total overhaul of that industrial court for the sole purpose of having all of the stakeholders have confidence so that we can get higher levels of productivity in this country. The other thing is the medical plan. Let me adjust the medical plan. Now, you would have heard on diverse occasions, including here tonight, that we will have the restart of the refinery. When that happens, we will have to be providing medical plan and medical facility for the workers in the refinery. We will extend that to all of the retirees and all of the previous workers whose medical plan was taken away from them. Yeah? Over 800 workers under Stuart Young and Rowley died as a result of not having access to a proper medical plan to which they were entitled. But the same Rowley, supported by the same Gary Sobers, Stuart Young, supported Rowley to fly out to get the best medical treatment. We want good medical treatment for every single worker in this country.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Roger. Comrade Anisette, your 2 minutes to respond if you have anything else that you want to say.
What I want to say, you're tested. Well, I was cut by Jesse, so I will continue now. Let me recognize...
Still have 2 minutes, eh?
Yeah, I know that. Let me recognize my friend and my comrade in the back there, the former president of NUGFW, Comrade Lambert. I think we need to give him some form of recognition. Yeah, having said that, and I agree with my comrade there because, I mean, what is happening in the industrial court there is nothing short but obscene, because I have a quote from the Privy Council where the chairman of the essential service industry took a matter on his own to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council pronounced on it and say that is unheard of. Then we have another matter with the OWTU, where again the matter went to the appeal court, where this man take a note from cabinet and offered and give TNTech workers 0002 without allowing the company or the union to see the evidence, and therefore it was a fundamental breach of good industrial relation practice and the principle that governs an industrial institution like the industrial court. And finally, when you see somebody like Deborah Felix has been terminated, not in keeping with good industrial relation practices, you know that the industrial court needs to be overhauled, and the National Trade Union Center and Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union stand strong behind that there needs to be an overhaul of the industrial court to reflect the meaning of the institution of the industrial court.
Thank you very much. Comrade Anisette. Comrade Batiste.
Yeah, comrades, let me just comment on 3 of the items. The industrial court. I too agree that the industrial court needs a complete overhauling in more ways than one. Not only with the appointment of the industrial court judges, but the abuse of injunctive relief that is aimed at stifling the workers from being able to give their voice to their own matters. Comrades, that had to be the treatment. We have to therefore look at the industrial court. In terms of medical plan, I want to use this opportunity to mention that this PNM government besides corrupting the industrial court, have engaged in the most egregious act when it comes to medical plan. In particular for all workers, but the public officers. They are taking public officers' money and refusing to meet the expenses incurred when the officers make their claim. So mandatorily taking the public officers' money, and public officers have to wait as much as 2 years to get back a refund. Comrades, again, this must come to an end. And thank God for April 28th, when it will come to an end. And last but not least, pension. I hear the comrade talk about pension. I'm not too sure if it's just in general, but let me just make one point clear. Pensioners in the public service and the likes, that we as the, while it was my turn at the helm of the PSA, we resisted signing 4%. You know why? Because for pensioners, they were saying what? No increase for 2014, no increase for 2015, no increase for 2016, and no increase for 17 and 18. Comrades, no back pay for pensioners. That again will come to an end. Pensioners deserve an increase like everyone else. So vote on April 28th, when we will settle negotiations on behalf of all workers, including pensioners of this country.
Thank you very much, Comrade Baptiste. And I just wanted to add to that, when you look at the manifesto on the workers' agenda and look at point number 7, the UNC will facilitate the discussion on providing a contributory pension plan for daily rated workers, something I've been talking about for decades. We commit to that. The UNC will act to eliminate taxes on retirement benefits and private pensions. And again, a very, very serious concern about pensioners. And of course, the last word for tonight remains with the Prime Minister in waiting, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar.
Thank you very much. Some questions that you may have, that time will not permit full answers. I invite you to go up on the UNC website, the UNC Facebook. We are posting our plans there, so many things in your mind, you know, that worry you, you want to know about. Please check the UNC Facebook, the UNC website. We are posting our plans and programs on that website. Before I go, I want to just raise one more point, not necessarily related to the discussions here this evening, but it has to do with elections, and others have mentioned it. You recall I had written to the former Prime Minister Rowley about election observers. You have mentioned that. Then I wrote to the incoming one-day Prime Minister and asked him to, what's happening with election observers? And the next day he responded. They told us CARICOM is coming. They told us Carter Center is coming, and I think OAS, Commonwealth observers. Have you seen any of these people in Trinidad? So we are in the middle of an election season. I'm calling on the government to tell us what is the status with respect to the election observers. A UNC team went to the EBC on Monday, and EBC could tell us nothing. They knew nothing about election observers. You would have seen that we discovered a person campaigning with the Red Brigade flag and everything else. And our General Secretary, Peter Kanhai, made a complaint to the EBC, and she was removed from being a returning officer. So as you get more info, anybody please send it to us, because the election will be won fairly or falsely. So we must all be prepared. We must all be ready. So I'm asking you, anything you see, funny business, let us know, let your candidates know, let our union leaders know to ensure. And tonight, again, I call on the government. Please give the country an update on the status of the election observers. We cannot allow you to sit there and thief the election. We will not allow you to steal this election. So guys, keep your eyes and ears open. Be ever vigilant. I thank you all. May the good Lord continue to bless and keep every one of you and your families. And when we meet again, I think our next meeting is in Mayaro on Saturday. Then we'll have our Monday night meeting. So we shall meet again, God willing. God bless you, and thank you very much. Thank you.